Welcome to Insurasales Live. Thanks for having us in your home, your office, in your car, on your phone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. This is good day. This is episode 1 of Insurasales Live Weekly. Now, you've probably seen us. You know who I am. I'm Brandon Todd. I have a special guest today, Steve Bontell. But you've probably seen us on our Insurasales Live. If you haven't, follow us on social media on just about anything at Insurasales. But we do interviews. We go around at different places and conferences, and we do interviews from time to time. But now we're going to weekly start on most weeks on Tuesdays. Tuesdays at 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 Central, and we're gonna have exciting guests on. Now, Insurasales is unique. It's different. We're a technology leader. We're thought leaders. We're not the status quo in the industry. So what you're going to get when you see us and you tune into Insurasales Live and set something on your calendar right now, 5 o'clock every week, do Insurasales Live. Because what I promise you is that I won't waste your time. I'm going to give you extreme value, and I'm going to show you things about the insurance industry and about the world that aren't just obvious and people don't have it. And we're going to have special guests from top of the industry who can teach you and kind of lift the veil on the things that go on behind the scenes and things that you may not be aware of. So thanks for coming on, and make sure you like, subscribe, follow us. If you're in the live chat, now go ahead and put down where you're from. Say where you're from and see who's tuning in. We'd like to know where everyone's coming from, and say a special hi if you know me or would like to know me. Say a special hi for that, and tell us what is your biggest challenge in the insurance industry, and what do you think the biggest secrets in the insurance industry are, or the things you'd most like to know. Go ahead and put those in the live stream now. But without further ado, I want to introduce you to someone who's become just an integral part of my life, a great friend and a colleague who I think was a divine appointment for us coming together. His name's Steve Bontell. His resume is as long as you can imagine in the insurance industry. And he's been on the inside from C-level positions at insurance companies, working with national marketing organizations. If there's anybody who knows the insurance industry in and out on the, from the inside, it's Steve. And he joined us a little over a year ago, and I'm happy to have him. So without further ado, what's up, Steve?
Hey, Brandon, thanks for having me on.
So tell everybody a little bit about you, man. I don't even know where to start with your resume. I started talking. I'm like, he's just smart.
Yeah, it could go on for a while, right? I think what I'd like people to understand is that in this business, I've made my entire career on putting the needs of the agent ahead of myself and really even the companies I work for. Because I've always felt like the hardest job in the entire industry is talking to agents or talking to customers on the phone. Actually, sometimes it is talking to agents, but talking to real life people, whether it's at the dinner table, it's trying to prospect, it's trying to figure out a lead source, it's trying to figure out how to make a living and do this day in and day out. It's a grind. And only because I spent so much time in my early years, I was an Allstate agent, I was a MetLife agent, had my own agency. Then somehow, some way, I was offered an opportunity to build the state of Florida with Progressive auto insurance at the time. Now we see Flo on TV, but Flo wasn't around back when I was there. And we did everything we could just to find agents who were really interested in promoting the brand and really building value in their agency. And Brandon, I decided a long time ago, by putting the needs of the agent, I was sacrificing a lot. And frankly, I look back at my career and I would say that maybe I didn't do as much perhaps as I probably could have, because I always erred on the side of protecting and caring about the agent first. And that was really one of the reasons why I think I gravitated my thought process and my career toward Insurasales and really what you're trying to do and your vision, because it really paralleled with mine. And I think we figured that out about a year ago. But you're right in what you said. It has been a long and distinguished career, but it's one in which I'm very grateful. I've spent so many times in boardrooms working with private investment and outside capital. I've worked with building products from the ground up. I've been in the end of life, the long-term care, the Medicare business, building products. And, it's interesting. I've seen the industry change now. We see a lot of aggregators and consolidators in the industry. And I've been around so long that I remember when those folks were just individual agents and small agencies themselves trying to figure out how to make it work. And I was hopefully very helpful in getting some of those guys launched in their career. So thank you for the warm introduction. It's an industry that I love. It's an industry that I hope to never retire from because I enjoy working in it so much. And I'm really thankful and blessed to be here with you.
So I want to hone in on what you just said. You said in a lot of positions in the insurance business, as an insider at the companies and with the national marketing organizations, you said you sometimes couldn't have done as much as you wanted to do putting the agent first. Let's talk about that because I think that really goes to the heart. This industry is nothing without the agent. Of course, agents are nothing without the carriers too. So there's a symbiotic relationship. But what has held you back? Just speak to that a little bit.
Well, I think when I say things like that, I mean that I've sat in executive meetings with CEOs and they've looked at me, and I've been the chief marketing officer of multiple insurance companies, the chief sales and marketing officer. I built so many different products. And when I sit down with my CEO, I'm always taken aback that a lot of CEOs in this industry have never sold insurance. They've never had to recruit an agent. They don't really understand how difficult it is to be successful in this business. And when you fight for agents, a lot of times, those individuals, I think, feel almost that there's a competitive nature to it. Instead of me focusing on doing everything I can to promote a home office and to make certain that everybody in my inner circle in the home office is taken care of, which I think a lot of those folks do. I believe that you build a healthy organization by crafting the right products, putting together the right people with the right services, and putting the agent's need first. And I did that a lot of times just by cross training and putting all of the focus, the attention of everybody in that company on the individual agent, the same one that's in 4 feet of snow in Minneapolis on a winter day, right? Or someone that's down in Florida and it's a monsoon or hurricane coming and they're trying to figure out how to make a sale today to pay their rent bill at the end of every week. And those are kind of things, Brandon, that have been very important to me throughout my career. And I don't know if a lot of CEOs and a lot of executives sometimes, I think, are disconnected with that piece. I think they'd like to make you believe that they are, but until they're actually in a car, knocking on a door and seeing what happens in the life of an agent, I think sometimes they are disconnected.
You think they do it? How many of them would actually go do it? How many would actually go door knocking or cold calling with the agents?
I don't know, but I can assure you that I have, and I've loved doing it. And I will tell you that if they did, that this industry would be a much better industry. I truly believe that. Insurance in and of itself is fairly simple. It's not as complicated, I think, as a lot of people might want to believe it to be. It is very much an industry whereby if you're not selling policies, and a lot of times you hear about book runoffs or companies that are no longer in the business and they don't want to sell it. Yes, they're profitable for a while, very profitable for a while that business runs off the books. But unless you're replenishing that with new business, the company is eventually going to die. So therefore, companies have to have a relationship with their agents. And I think over the last 40 years or so, Brandon, we've kind of lost track of that a little bit. We've partnered with organizations, sales organizations that we call independent marketing organizations, IMOs, or national marketing organizations, NMOs, or I think now the big buzzword is FMOs, or field marketing organizations. And we've kind of said, you go handle the agents, guys. We're the carrier, we'll manufacture and service the product, but you guys go market, recruit, and grow the business for us. And that's been a model that's been around for about 40 to 45 years. And in many ways, I wish that the industry never lost track of the fact that it was the individual agent and that the people within the organization could not have their jobs without the sale of that agent every single week. And I know some people recognize that and fully understand it, but sometimes I don't know if that's ever really articulated with the kind of love and genuine respect for the agent that I think needs to be there.
Yeah, so I think a lot of agents, especially those new in the business, but even veterans that I'm talking to, don't really understand the mechanics of the way products come to market. They, most guys, know that there's an upline. They call it an FMO. There's a FMO, IMO, MGA, GA. There's a lot of different terms that are used,
Right.
but people don't really understand kind of how the sausage is made for that. So if I sell, my background was always in Medicare supplement product, and then I branched into other things. But if I sell a Medicare supplement product, I certainly didn't know, and it took me a long time to crack through and make the relationships and get people to tell me what it seems to be the hidden secrets of of the product development, of the way the insurance companies and reinsurance companies work, and all of this, and what an FMO actually is, how you get to be an FMO, how they don't want you to be an FMO, how there's kind of a little fraternity that kind of tries to keep people out because there's good money up there. Can you speak to that? Like, can you kind of give us a crash course? Because a lot of our viewers, they don't know how a product's made. Talk about if we're going to go develop a brand new proprietary Medicare supplement policy or final expense life policy. What would we have to do, and what would that process be, and who all would be involved?
Well, let me if it's okay with you, Brandon, I'll talk in terms of final expense.
Okay.
I was fortunate enough to build the first final expense product for Forethought Life in Indianapolis in 2007 on the executive team there, and then did the same for Settlers Life, which is a company part of National Guardian Life. So and I built the first end of life planning product in the United States in 2000. So the end of life is sort of, I think, where I've made my hay, so to speak, and I've made my name in the industry. Let me just kind of explain sort of how it works, right? So every carrier is looking for a definitive advantage, any type of competitive advantage in a very crowded market, right? In the final expense business, there may be 30 to 35 carriers that represent products, and that might be a large company that just has it as a small product line. It may be a standalone carrier that has its entire emphasis on that product. It may be a healthcare organization that just has a life division and it's sort of a subsidiary sidelight item. But whatever the case may be, might even be a fraternal, right, who just focuses on selling through their membership and their fraternal clubs and all the organizations that they sponsor. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to we're selling life insurance. And so we have to create a product where we are competitive. And in the market today in final expense, in order to create a product where now the top contract, where companies will actually create a product, they might pay 150 to 155% commission first year just to get the product sold. The reason they've had to do that is because the distribution arms, as you mentioned, the FMOs, IMOs, and some of the other folks are kind of saying, well, another company's offering this. So in order for you guys to get position package in what we call shelf space in our agency or across the country, we're going to need you to up that commission. And so carriers have followed suit to the point where they have really built products at that price point to start. And then they've got the acquisition cost, right? So they've got the upfront cost of building that in. Then they've got a reserve for all the claims, because you're assuming every person that you're selling to, you're going to have to pay a claim at some point. And then they have their asset liability management strategy that they employ across the company. So they've got to make sure that it's a profitable item. Life insurance is a longer trail to it. So you're not going to make a lot of money in the first year. Here's an interesting point, Brandon, that a lot of agents don't know, is that for every final expense policy they sell in the United States today, it may take 6 to 8 years before that carrier even breaks even, doesn't even make a single profit, not a single penny.
You guys hear that? I mean, that floored me the first time you told me that.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And actually in the bigger whole life company,
for a break even for an insurance company on a final expense policy.
Yeah, and even on a bigger whole life case, if things don't perfectly line up, it could be a little longer, but you're talking anywhere from 10 to 14 years with some carriers in order to get that payback where you can actually start making money. So when I hear about companies saying or agents out there saying, well, I've got to make a big first year commission. And then, you know what, if it makes sense, I'm just going to roll that business the next year. I just can't accept that. It's unacceptable for an agent to do that because it's not fair to the carrier. The carrier it puts all their time and energy and money up front in this product, and they need to make sure that it sticks on the books. They want that client for life. And I believe that it's incumbent, as long as those rates are in line, which in final expense, they're guaranteed for life, as long as that payment is made. I understand for Medicare supplement, right? The rates can change and you want to make sure that the client is taken care of, and a too big of a rate increase is maybe something they want to change. But in final expense, it's really unfair to the carrier if an agent or a marketing organization of any kind is really trying to somehow take business from that group and try to give it to another agent or another
Yeah, and
agency.
it's in the contracts that you're not going to do that. It's in the contracts. A lot of people don't read their contracts. They don't know that, but it's, I know as an agent coming up, when, from rural East Texas, just coming out, I learned how to talk to someone, write a piece of paper, get a check, send it in the mail, and a check came back in the mail. I was like, whoa, like, is this legal? I mean, like, really, some of my friends actually asked if it was legal, because it was the first time we'd ever like done an entrepreneurial venture. And so, immediately when the big bad insurance company started telling me, hey, we have this or that, I would reflexively say, oh, whatever, you guys are super wealthy and rich, I don't want to hear about your problems. I need money for all that. And I was very immature, I have to say that, and thinking that way. But it is a reflex from that, because no, I want to do whatever is going to make me the most money, and I'm going to justify. Human behavior says you justify in your mind what you emotionally want to be true.
Right.
So, I mean, I think that's what a lot of people from the beginning say. But can you break down to me before we go any further? Because I want to talk about the full thing that makes a product. But you mentioned um, a 6-year timeline for a break even on that. Can you break down why that is? Like, what's the finance cost of capital to pay those 100+% advances? What are they looking at? Early claims loss, all of those different things. Can you kind of break that down succinctly?
Yeah, well, you've kind of just touched on pretty much all of them. In order to sell it in today's climate, the way carriers look at it is I have to come up with a competitive commission that's going to be sold. So carriers have what they call DAC, which is direct acquisition cost, and all of that is their commissions. The cost of getting that policy issued includes all of the internal costs to sell that product, and that's a significant amount because you combine that with the fact that every state has a reserving capital requirement. So if you're then having to reserve the money for the claim, because assuming you sell a $10,000 policy today, the states have to see that you have the money there to pay. So you have to be solvent at all the times. And they have formulas. Each state has a formula, and the actuaries within your group make certain that that your solvency numbers, your risk-based capital, everything is in place that will pay those claims. Okay, that's the most important thing. What you've seen over the years when insurance departments have come in and shut down insurance companies from selling, either they where their investments were, where their risk-based capital score had fallen below what the state mandatory number is, and they became in a stage of insolvency. So it's really critical for individuals, agents who are going to sell products, to work with a company that has really very strong financials. Not necessarily in the final expense business do you need to have an A minus rating of that kind of nature, but you need to have experience in the space, and you have to make certain that you are abiding by all the state regulations and that you have a very, what I would call a very traditionally conservative approach to money management. I know there are certain carriers out there that are run by private equity that maybe have a little more aggressive timeline. While they might hit those timelines, it also can put them in a really difficult spot if they
Right.
don't.
So I gotta pay someone 140 to 160% commission to the top line. Now, most agents out there don't know that there's 20 to 50% of all insurance premiums or commissions available aren't paid to the writing agent. And most agents don't even know. They think this is the commission, or maybe my upline gets a little piece. They don't realize that your upline probably has an upline, they probably have an upline, and the top level probably has some hidden levels that they don't even know about, product developers and things like that. So there's a whole lot of the commissions that go away. So I got to pay those. If I'm a carrier, I'm going to create an insurance policy. I got to pay for final expense. I got to pay that. It's called 150%. So I get $1 in premium in. I got to pay out $1.50. Well, that's not good business in the short term, is it?
No.
Now I also advance that. So normally like a 9-month advance. So I get $1 in. Now I got to pay $13.50 out. Well, this gets pretty hard. Now I start getting the dollars for 9 more months that kind of recoups that. But I have to do that. And then what happens? What else happens? Someone dies.
Right.
I got to pay out that claim. I got the state breathing down my back, making sure I have reserve requirements met.
Right. And then you have to look, some carriers, depends on their size. If it's a decent size carrier, mid-size or above, as far as total assets, accessing capital, anytime you're selling insurance, you're taking a cap surplus hit, as we call it, right? The capital surplus. It's the money that's available to use to invest, right? It's like utilizing the profits and the funds of an insurance company to actually, support this sales initiative. And if companies really don't have a decent amount of cap surplus, like they just have a few $1,000,000 here and there, and they want to sell 10, 15 million, they could not, they don't have the funds to do that. And so that opens up a whole nother market, which is the reinsurance market. And reinsurance companies are essentially are companies that insure the insurance companies. And there's a number of them in all walks of life in the senior market. And they have a lot of experience, a lot of actuaries. They can run a lot of numbers, but they will take on a lot of the risks that the insurance companies don't want to have. So these insurance companies that are smaller or do have maybe they don't have the hedge or don't have the leverage because they're invested in so many other things, can hedge that a little bit by utilizing reinsurance. And that's what you see kind of a lot with companies that have really aggressive growth plans. And I've worked for a number of them. And in some cases, those folks will have to take 50, even upwards of 90% reinsurance just to support what they're going to do. But, obviously, Brandon, with reinsurance comes, you're going to have to hand over your profits, right? So the reinsurers will give you the stability that you want and give you the back end financing that you want, but it doesn't come without a cost. And that's what
when I
makes it
sell
balancing.
an insurance policy, I get paid a commission. My upline gets paid a commission. Multiple other people might get paid a commission. And then there might be some invisible commissions for the people who develop the product overall, and who knows what other back deals the company might have made, all to get this product to market. But then also this company may be paying a big reinsurance company to give them stability to have this amount of business. Now, one thing I found was fascinating is that, if you're an insurance agent, you want to sell insurance. You're like, there's no business is bad. We're going to sell more and more. And I would go to carriers and I would bring them opportunities. I'd say, look, we're going to sell X amount of insurance and all that. And then I don't really have an appetite for it. I'm like, wait, it's not profitable. You're going to have too much claims loss. And there's a whole lot of other reasons why they wouldn't do it. And capitalization is a lot of it. They have appetites for business. So I've learned that some carriers will actually, like, they're developing apps now that will allow carriers to increase the underwriting score, like the Milliman score or something like that, when they want less business, and decrease it when they don't. So people in Medicare Gurus, for instance, were like, I just last month I got someone issued in this exact example, and this month it's not happening. And they say it just must be operational problems. And there is a lot of that. You can talk to 3 underwriters on the same day with a lot of carriers, and they'll give you different answers. One will reject it, the other one will approve it. But they didn't understand that carriers often will take the underwriting capabilities depending on their appetite for how much business. And I would say, well, if your actuaries have done their job and you're priced appropriately, then you should be at some level of profitability. So why would scaling that up hurt you? So you want to speak to that? Why do I have to limit the amount of business I have if I have an appropriately priced product?
Well, because at the end of the day, you're still dealing with an overall company, and the overall company is only going to be geared as far, and their valuating actuaries are going to figure all that stuff out. But you're going to get to a point where companies will say, I can only take 5 million of this, or 25 million of that, or 50 million of this. Some carriers, I mean, obviously the monster A++ rated AM Best carriers that have been around for 100 years, it's a non-issue. They can write as much as they want, but there are so many small regional companies, many of which I've worked with or consulted with. They really don't have the capital to really build out without really getting reinsurance. And then, of course, that brings in their own issues. I think what you do is you figure out who you are. I think that's the most important thing carriers can do. You figure out who you are. You figure out what your tolerance for risk is, what your long-term appetite is for that risk, and create products that are going to mirror exactly what you and the board want. It's for some auto insurance and group health, and for some it's final expense and Medicare Advantage, and there's a lot of ways to make money in this industry, but it truly has to be anyway, a partnership between the individual agent ultimately and the carrier, right? And what you just mentioned before, it's a hierarchy, Brandon. In many ways, over the last 45 years, we've created a pyramid, and but there's only one person or one group rather, that takes the risk in this pyramid, and that's the insurance carrier, because they're the ones, essentially putting their name on this piece of paper. The risk,
the long-term risk, the agents, every layer has their acquisition cost and their cost of doing business and stuff as a risk. The risk that they may not sell something and all that. But what you're saying, because I want to just clarify that, is the insurance company says, my father just died in February. We bought a policy 22 years ago on him.
Yep.
We forgot we even had it. I mean, there's like $500 went out of a bank account a month for over long, but he got paid off for this. These people, they sat there for the long haul. Our commissions were gone long ago on that policy. We forgot all about it. That company sat there and managed that risk for this people, and we're there. I mean, my dad didn't need the life insurance like he did when he bought it, but he kept paying the premium, and there was a check.
That's right.
And it was tax free and the whole thing. So I just wanted to clarify that, because if I'm a young agent getting started in the business, I'd be like, you're not telling me I'm not taking risk. I had to go rent an office. I don't know where my next dollar is coming from.
Well, the one thing I know after spending so many years in the home office of so many carriers is that the insurance industry is filled with wonderful people that care deeply about doing a good job and managing themselves, their brand, their company. They always want to do it with taste and class. Now, there's obviously exceptions to that, but I think the one thing that's important, and I've said this probably for 28 years of my career, is that the insurance company takes all the risk, but when I look at a contract that they sign, it's always between the company who holds the risk, the insurance agent who sold it, and the client who bought it. Okay. And I never see any of what you say, the MGAs, the GAs, the RMOs, IMO. I mean, all the different levels above that in that pyramid, if you will. And like you said, they get a piece of everything, or they get a piece of the commission from the writing agent, which I'm still trying to understand how that works. And I've struggled with it for 28 years because
Well, let's unpack that real quick. Let's land the plane real quick
okay.
on because I know I probably blew some people's minds when we started saying that there's so many layers that you may not be aware of getting money, and that immediately when you hear that, like, I'm not getting all the commissions, so people have a knee jerk. But let's land the plane real quick on product development. And then I want to go in and talk about, I think it'd be good to give a history lesson kind of about where the independent agent market came from and where it's going today. Because I see, from old school where companies had captive distribution, to the independent distribution model, which served a lot of people well and helped people, is kind of maturing out now. And then all the way to what's next with social media, internet, AI coming on, and all of this. How these systems are modifying. But let's land the plane on product development first, and we'll talk about that. Where real simply, how many people I'm going to do a product development for a product? How many people I got to get in the room to sign off and pay off to get this thing launched and into the hands of agents?
Well, first of all, you're going to need, you're ultimately going to have the CEO approval, or president approval. You're going to have your actuaries are going to sign off. Your product development guy is going to sign off. Your chief sales officer is going to sign off. Your chief underwriting officer is going to sign off. And I'll categorically guarantee you that your chief compliance officer will too. All right.
And that's in the insurance company. Now, how many people outside of my company do I have to get together to put this product on the street?
Well, you have to figure out how you're going to distribute the product. Are you going to do it direct to consumer? Are you going to go through the independent, as we were talking about, this FMO brokerage channel?
Well, let's talk about that. That's most of our audience is independent brokers. So
okay.
To get that out into Brandon Todd's company's hands, and call me and say, hey, we got this product. I'd love you and your agents to sell it. What do we got to do?
Well, first thing we're going to do is
assuming someone else is the one who went in as a marketing organization to help develop it.
Okay. Well, if I understand you correctly, what's going to happen is once we've got the product, first of all, hopefully we would have gained some competitive intelligence and figured out exactly what we wanted to do before we ever brought it out to you. So I would have a competitive market. Unfortunately, in our industry, Brandon, a lot of times, especially the home office, we like to copy other companies, and we like to see what their rates are, what they do, how they do it, and then we go copy it. And I've always felt like that was never a good business model. The idea was to create some creativity on the front end, realizing that you may have that client for 20 or 30 years. What are you going to do to really take care of your client and the agent that are selling it? Once you get it out there and it gets in the hands of somebody like you, and with your agents and your team, what I want to do is I want to craft, at least what I think carriers ought to do is craft a complete partnership with you. And what I mean by that is that you fully understand what we shared about a minute ago, right? Which is the 6 to 8 year break even on the product, in that I know that you've got my back, right? As a home office guy, I want to make sure that distribution has my back, that you're doing what's right for me. In exchange for that, I want to do what's right for you. And maybe that includes giving you some type of a lead financing, lead allowances, leads themselves, help you with recruiting, find a way for that phone to ring, whether it be new business or whether it be somebody that wants to sell new business for you. I believe that a carrier should become a true partner with the agent or agency that he's working with, not just, you got my product, here's my commission sheet, here's my app, go sell it. I think it has to be deeper than that. And that's been one of the issues I've struggled with in this industry, consulting with carriers, working with agents, is that there's not enough of that, because it's easier just to say, here, Brandon, take our product. It's priced well. The commissions are in line with everybody else, and have a nice day. Or I send my regional rep to come out. Hey, do you want to play golf? Do you want to fish? And the idea is like, you can golf and fish anytime you want. Come here and bring value that I can't ordinarily have on my own. Tell me something.
I spent a decade isolating myself from the insurance companies because people would call me and say, yeah, I want to come down. I'm going to be in your area. I'm going to come down. We're putting it on the schedule. I want to take you to lunch. I'm like, I don't need to go to lunch. And so the VPs and all that, like, just learned to leave me alone for a long time. Like, no, let's talk. I mean, you don't even need to come down here. Let's talk. Tell me about what's going on in your company. How can we integrate? How can we start working on different ideas together? What resources do I have that are cutting edge that you need to get involved with? Well, I mean, I'm going to be there on July. Can I buy you dinner and maybe we can play golf? Like, no, I'm sorry, I'm busy. I'm working. I mean, but I mean, it was probably immature on my part. I'm just so busy doing what I'm doing. I didn't realize that I should have played golf because those long-term relationships do matter and things like that. But pretty much the carriers decided to just leave me alone and let me send in business and all that.
Brandon,
let me bring this one other question, because what you said is so important. And it goes into the evolution of the independent distribution. So it seems like everyone's trying to do nothing, or take something off their plate, the outsourcing idea. So the carriers an insurance company used to be the sales organization, and the sideline was that they sold the products, but it was the biggest sales organization out there. And then, we can talk about that. But as they start outsourcing distribution to third-party companies, FMOs, IMOs, NMOs, and those people start recruiting the agents, and then they have their own agendas for cross-company stuff and all this other stuff. Well, everyone seems to be dissociated. Because I know I started in 1997, and there was no one really showing me what it's like to be a carrier. I didn't have an aligned interest with any carrier, except that if I met that parameters, kind of like an API now. It's like, here's what it is. You can send this application in. If it meets the parameters, and we'll send you a check. That was our aligned interest. That was it. But we weren't trying to build anything together or do anything together. So I just want to mention that, because I think that is kind of where we are now. And part of what we are doing at Insurasales is trying to help align people's interests through technology and community and things like that. So talk to that.
Yeah, I think you're right. The industry has really, we see all the insurtech, fintechs. We see companies coming in with a new way to handle claims, or they'll come in and say, we got a new way to market homeowners insurance, or, you know what I mean, without naming names. And they all have some great idea, right? Brand new life distribution company, right? We sell life insurance so differently. Everybody wants to line up and buy it. The problem is that we haven't found anybody that buys life insurance yet in large bulk. We get people that need it to be sold to them. So they need to have an agent. And I find it interesting that a lot of the insurtech companies have now gone back to independent brokers all around the country to say, hey, you sell it. But they're selling a private labeled or white label product made by an insurance company that's looking for different distribution outside of their direct to the consumer approach, and they're going back to brokers. So I guess what's always new is old again, right? And it really comes back to agents are the ones who sell the business. My issue has been, okay, if you know that it's the agent and you're the insurance company, and paying 150%, where's it going to stop, right? 150 becomes 155, becomes 160, becomes 170. When do you get in your mind, like as you mentioned, Brandon, so correctly, is that when we had the debit business, or the agents that would knock on doors every week to collect the premium payment, which, by the way, there's still several companies out there that do that in the United States.
Are there really?
Yeah, still several.
I did meet someone about 5 years ago who was running a debit route.
No. Many agents still doing it.
Those who don't know, a debit route, literally the agent comes by, knocks on your door, comes in your home, and collects the premium every month. And the model is you get someone, and then you come by, collect the premium, and then try to stack and upsell to them over a period of time and get referrals and all of that. So that was archaic when I started in the business in the mid to late 90s. That was very archaic, but there was still some around. But you're saying there's still some there.
Oh yeah, still several companies that still do it across the U.S. and are still very successful doing it. I will say though that the industry as a whole is still an agent-driven business. Agents are the only ones selling business. These, as you mentioned, IMOs, FMOs, the uplines of these organizations, while they might recruit and they might even offer a little training and they might even offer some support. In reality, what you see today is they've had to up the commissions to really the carriers, that is, to account for all those different levels. If the carriers didn't have to account for all those levels and could just pay a essentially a base commission with bonuses and overrides to maybe managers that work in those as offices, if you will, like they do with career companies, it would be you could create a significantly lower price product, Brandon, just because of the way it is. But it's interesting. One of
Or
the
you could pay the agents more.
Yeah, it could pay the agents more.
Pay the agents more. You could put more towards agent support, towards those kind of things. Because let's talk about this. So, what's happening in the FMO industry? I mean, I know the FMO industry. I know how to do that, and the way to do that is get it when a new product comes out. Get everyone licensed in your hierarchy. I call it insert yourself into their hierarchy. And so that anything they happen to buy gets there. People have all kinds of support systems or things they offer, bonuses, all this stuff where they're competing against it. But it's its own industry. That override that's built into the products, that becomes its own industry that people are fighting for. So you get them in there, and then you go to the next carrier and try to get all your agents in line with that. And so they call it locking them up. So basically all the contracts and penetrating the agent so that all their contracts go through you in one way or another. And the more you can do that, the more you isolate them from the competition, because you don't want an agent, have one contract with you and five others with the five other carriers, especially in health insurance or in Medicare, because everything changes all the time. So they're doing that. And now how does that align? Because we talk to carriers every day, and the carriers are like, I don't see another way out of this for the most part, because this mature economy has this built into the cake. There's a few people that we can work with, but they don't have my interests at heart either. They see me as a commodity they got to lock the agents into. So how did it evolve to that? Because when the independent agent model started, back when Gary Bush and those of his era were out there, that unlocked a whole new world of independent distribution. It created people like me and my father and so many others, multimillionaires, millionaires, independent people who were not captive to a specific insurance company. And I thank God for that all the time. But how did that evolve to this good old boys network who has a baked in slice of the pie and doesn't have really the agents or the carriers' interests at heart, and there's really no alignment in the industry?
Well, you touched on a lot right there, right? That could go a lot of different ways.
Take it where you want.
Well, I mean, let me just say this: in the late, actually, it was really in the early 80s. The industry, there's a lot of life insurance companies and fraternals and other groups that are small, as I mentioned, regionals, that are always looking for representation. You see their agent population was dwindling. They needed to find somebody or someone who would help them. And I think when they reached out to the groups that you speak of, what they were really trying to do was get distribution. They were trying to get recruiting. They were trying to get agents that could sell their product. So their idea was noble, and the idea of the groups that sprouted up, as you say, to say, hey, we'll do that. We'll provide the recruiting and training and support for you. Little did we know, 40 some odd years later, we're still talking about it, and that's still being done the way that you talk about. I will say this. There are some really good folks in the industry that are doing wonderful work, wonderful training. They do it where they truly are partners with the agents. But what I've noticed, Brandon, over the last probably 10, 15 years, that it's not really that way. What you've seen is a lot of small agents who were selling or maybe never sold a policy in their life said, hey, I can make more money just recruiting people. I could just recruit people in this business, get paid a 5 or 10 point override in that pyramid I talked about before, and then just let those guys come in and I'll recruit them and let them go sell, and I'll make my living off the backs of agents. I don't believe that was the intent of the individuals 45 years ago. I don't think that was the intent of the carriers to create that, but it's been created. And so what's happened is more and more people who are in the insurance business who hear about being an agent say, why do I want to be an agent when I can go recruit? I'll tell you a funny story. Not too long ago, I was someone reached out to me. I don't know how, but reached out to me and said, hey, Steve, would you like to become an agent with my organization? And I just kind of played along and said, well, talk to me about your organization. Talk to me about his company. And I said, well, it sounds like you got a wonderful company. And I said, can I ask you a quick question? Because you've spent 10 minutes talking to me about how great your company is. And I said, can I ask you one question? I said, yeah. Have you ever sold insurance? Have you ever gone door to door? Have you ever had to deliver a claim check? Have you ever had to go and try to save a cancellation, right? Have you ever been on a call where you just got totally ripped by somebody for an hour and then saved the account and actually got referrals off of it? And the gentleman said, no, I've been in the business 6 months. I haven't sold a policy. And I said, before you recruit somebody like me, please do yourself and the industry a favor and go learn our business. Go actually experience. Get here knows. Get here, I'll think about it. Get told that you can't make it in this business and actually sell something and become great at what you do. And you know what? Find tools that are going to help you. Just don't sit there and try to recruit people and try to build your career off the backs of somebody. Go out and actually learn how to be a true salesman.
That brings up a good point. It's when it started, you had people who had developed agencies, who had multi-location agencies, many in many states. Most of the people who started independent distribution were people with good distribution, good agencies who were selling the products in the weeds every day on how to generate a lead, how to make a sale, and do sales training and events and the whole thing that it takes to build a sales organization. Those were the people that the carriers were outsourcing to under this model. But over time, it seems to have graduated to where, I always use the beehive analogy. So my grandfather was a beekeeper. It's some of my best memories was my grandfather. In the summers, I would go up there and he had a farm, and one of his major things was bees. And so I loved harvesting the honey. If you've never harvested honey from bee, it's like liquid gold. It's just an amazing experience. But what you do is you have these boxes, where all the bees live, and they lay their eggs and they keep regenerating and reproducing and all that. And in each one of those little combs, you have either brood, which is the larvae, the about to be a baby bee, or you have honey, and they're all mixed up together. The queen goes and lays eggs wherever, but the harvesters, they come in and they put an excluder that keeps the queen out of that top box. It keeps her out because that harvest needs to be fresh without a lot of brood in it. Now that brood, that excluder keeps her out because she's bigger than the rest. That's how it works. And so only the worker bees get in there, and then they make that good, crisp, clean honey with the comb, and they cap it really good. Like if you've ever seen the honeycomb, it's like that. So basically what started out as an expansion of agency that we expanded and said, okay, we're building stuff. Now we're going to outsource. Companies can outsource their distribution game to us. Became a cottage industry. And we kind of put a few people at the top, kind of put that excluder in there. And now there's baked into the cake, there's that top hive full of fresh raw honey and comb, which we call overrides. And there's a few people in this fraternity that get that, and they can kind of fight over it and all of that. But there's a loss of alignment between the carriers, the agents, and even their quote unquote upline or FMO or distribution. And I say all that because since there is that industry about getting that top bar hive, what you actually get is you get companies that never sold insurance. I never knew this. I'll back up. When I started out broke as I can be, living in rural East Texas, driving around, going home to home. I got a call from, I won't name names, big FMOs, people, household names now in the insurance industry. I get net calls from them. I'd see them. I'd see their office. I'd hear them. I'd call. They'd have a hold music. I'm like, whoa, these people are so smart. They're so wonderful. I wish I could be like them. And I finally got to do some home office visits, and I'm like, whoa, these people are so impressive. But when you grow in the industry and all that, you look under it, it's like these people couldn't make a cold call. These people have never sold insurance. Not that they're not good people, not anything else, but they're not insurance salespeople. Now that industry has become where you get really good, and you can take it. Most of them are like, business degree people, or even, people without a degree, but they're hustlers and all that. And you get them, and their job is to sell you a contract before the other guy sells the contract, so they can insert themselves into your hierarchy. And so that no matter what you happen to sell, and their job is volume, they have no idea if you're going to sell or not. They can't help you. And if they do help you, you're probably going to go do something else anyway. So it's not feasible for them to really help you much, besides the amount that it shows to say I'm better than the rest of the people on the front end. But these people it's not insurance distribution anymore. It's a cottage industry about getting overrides. And it's devolved to that. And now I'll say this last thing and I'll let you speak, but I think we're on the precipice of a big shift in our industry. I think it's already started. The internet, I was at the front of the internet shift in our industry. But I see this starting because the internet and the communities that have formed around agents and all this are starting to see through the matrix here. They're starting to see these things, and we're already seeing a big shift mentally, at least, away from that. And we're starting to see hybrid organizations start to form again, where it is the distributors who get the majority of the overrides and the commissions and things like that. The people and agents are gravitating towards the people who actually do sell insurance and have the experience in the field, not just trying to sell contracts. I see a reemergence of that, but yet there's still a fraternity that they have to work on.
Yeah, I think you said it all, and I was smiling throughout because I was the chief marketing officer of a company where the president was actually a beekeeper. And when you talked about the liquid honey, when he would bring it in, I was like, oh man. And I don't even buy honey, but that's stuff that you'd never turn down. That's as good as it gets. So, Brandon, I'll leave it to you like this. When I was running a company, running the sales and marketing of a life insurance carrier, I built a product with 145% first year commission. I built it. I got it actuarially approved, did all the same things I shared with you that I do. Got it ready. I positioned it so that it was different than any other final expense company in America. We take it out, and I come to find out that agents that are selling the product are getting 70% commission, 45% commission. I even had one group told me their lead costs had gotten so high that they needed to lower the commission to 25% first year commission. True story. And when you hear those kind of things, you have to ask yourself, where is the rest of the money going? And then when I hear from friends of mine in the industry going, we're just struggling. We can recruit people, but we just can't hold on to them. They're coming to us and then they try it out and they can't make it. Either they buy a lot of leads and it just doesn't work out or whatever. And I know a lot of folks get really, focused on the leads. Not addressing leads today.
One quick question. Just, did the guy who told you the lead costs had gone up so much that agent commissions had to be 25%, did he fly private in to tell you that?
No. But it was on a phone call, and I think that his company had a private plane, but that's another story. But I will tell you this, that I did what they asked me to do because I was in the role of taking care of my distributors. But at the end of the day, I always struggled, and I still continue to struggle in an industry whereby if we actually know we build a product at a price point that essentially we're fine with everybody. Like if I built the product at 145, Brandon, that means every single person, every policy that's sold by whether it's a person, whoever it is, direct to the consumer. If I've got 145 in that product, I've got 145 I'm paying on every single sale. Doesn't matter. Okay. Doesn't matter who sells it. So then I asked you, if I can afford to pay 145, why isn't the agent getting the lion's share of that? And what happened is over time is the industry created a word called street or street contract. And that was an idea that came up between the distribution arms, the pyramid upline that you talk about, and the carriers. And the carriers said, well, we'll agree to that. And final expense, a lot of times carriers would go anywhere from 105 to 120. And they would say that would be the first year commission. And there'd be agents out there that were recruited or, as you said, locked up to sell it. But then the question I always had was, okay, you're paying them 115%, but there's 145 in it. So what's the other 30? Where's the other 30% going to? Could that not be going to that agent or the lion's share of that agent? Are you giving the agent a contact management system? Are you giving that agent leads? Are you giving that agent insurance? Are you giving him? I mean, I know for some of them, some people would laugh at me all the time and say, Steve, I'm on the phone every day with my agents trying to prevent them from jumping, right? I'm protecting them and protecting their marriage and trying to keep them together, right? And we understand that's all valuable. It's just, I would always ask the question and I would never really get an answer. It was, why do we pay 150% or 145 or whatever the contract level is to distribution that has 40 or 50 other companies that they're trying to position as my competitors as a carrier? I want to be sold. I just want my product sold because I've got a board of directors and I've got my carrier employees that are relying on me to be sold. And when I'm constantly fighting for shelf space because I don't pay enough. I had one guy one time, this is a true story, and you'll probably enjoy this. I had a pretty big distributor come in and say, Steve, we've got one company that pays us $50,000 a year to sponsor our training. And you're only paying us $7,500 a year. And I said, okay, is there anything else? And they said, well, they're taking us on their private planes, my wife and I and our executives here in the marketing organization to Pebble Beach to play golf. And I said, well, could I invite you guys to come down and have breakfast with us at Shoney's with my team? And I know we're kind of smiling about that, but we had a Shoney's across the street, and I truly wanted them to come and spend time with our family at the carrier, and that's where we would have gone. And they looked at me and go, nah, we're going on the jet. So at that point in time, I said, well, that's a very large FMO that's not going to sell my product. And so what do I do? If I have to now go try to find the agent who's going to write the business with me or the agency that wants to partner with me. And Brandon, that's really what this the industry has really, it has, I don't know if it's evolved or devolved to, but however way you look at it, but we as an organization, as an industry, we have to get back to creating a complete bond between the client, the agent, and the carrier, because that's what made this industry and all the folks that were built around it to support and recruit and whatnot. I still believe that while there's a lot of good work being done, it probably needs to be tightened up a little bit. And I know we've seen a lot of aggregation and consolidation in the industry. We'll continue to see that. But we have to get to a point where there's an organization, which is frankly one of the reasons why I joined you. I had watched you for so many years at Medigap 360. Had become a phenomenal success in the Medicare supplement world. And at that time, I was building this company called Forethought Life in Indianapolis. And I was like, who's that guy figuring out how to sell to consumers direct, with the call center with about 40 or 50 agents who's killing it in the industry? Little did I know that I would one day be partnering with you and working with you in this fashion. But you had done so many wonderful things in that industry. And that was an opportunity for carriers back then to have a partnership with you and that team where you could really build it together. And I think that's what this industry is going to going to evolve into. And I think with Insurasales and all the things that you have and that, have really built for the last 18 years, where it truly is an agency in a box where, agents, carriers, and really everybody that's involved in the selling of life and health insurance can live off that platform and do it in a way where truly everybody wins. And I think when the world really gets to see all of Brandon Todd and Insurasales, I know for one, I'll be very proud of it.
Don't give too much away.
We're holding will too.
And don't give too much away real quick, but
I won't. But
yeah, go to keep watching, follow us on here, and you're going to learn a whole lot of stuff real quick. Yeah. But with that, got a little bit of time here left. We're in over an hour, but it's open-ended. So let's talk about your role with Insurasales. I mean, when you and I first met, it's a funny story because I didn't even know who you were. Again, like I've been hiding under a rock for 10 years. I don't go out to lunch for anyone. I don't go to industry events. I'd show up at ICMG every third year when I had something to talk about, and I'd sponsor it and then come in and talk about it. And then I wouldn't need it for events for a couple of years and things like that. But I didn't know who you were. And I got on LinkedIn because I'm trying to figure out how to do social media. And I saw this guy just write the most heartfelt message I've ever read. Said, the Lord's put it on his heart to find new opportunities. And if anyone knows anybody, and he's just this really long, beautifully written thing. And I said, look, this guy sounds great. Let me reach out to him. I didn't think he'd respond. But then we talked for, 4 hours on the phone and then 5 hours in person. And, we probably put in a half a week's work of just heart to hearts before we decided to work together. But it was that we were ideologically aligned that in the end, it's about the agent, it's about the man on the street, not just the insurance agent, but throughout the entire world. I think the world of consolidation and all that has left the guy on the street behind. And the thing is, all those layers above us who do the work on the ground, we could live without them. They couldn't live without us. If we stop working, they're done. If they go away, we're richer and we're better and we're less constrained. So, those kind of concepts, and I'm butchering it right now just off the cuff, but those kind of concepts we really align around. Your experience in the insurance industry, and on the carrier side and carrier relations side and product development side for even affinity groups and other things that we're putting together. It's been invaluable to us. But talk a little bit about what you're looking for as what your title is. I always get it wrong. And what you're looking for, and if people want to reach out to you and want to learn more about Insurasales and how we can actually do a good job for them, then talk about that.
Yeah, so you kind of nailed it. I've tried to, at every stop along the way, I just believe in full transparency. I just do. I've felt that way with all my employees that have worked for me, for all my teams and my boards and whatnot. We gain nothing by trying to figure out how to hide stuff. My feeling is the industry needs change. And change is actually really good most of the time. It just sometimes make you feel a little uncomfortable. We get to the other side, it's great. And I've watched our industry, Brandon, for the last 40 some odd years and come and go. And I don't really see any material change. I really don't. A lot of the companies that have come in the business who claim that they're going to change the industry with private equity money, most of them go broke, never make a profit. They're out of the business a couple of years later, or they sell whatever's left over to somebody else who then tries and they never make it. And so what I was really wanting in my career, particularly after consulting and working in the senior market now for most of my career, was somebody that was actually going to do something different. Somebody that I felt could be the Amazon of the insurance industry, right? could be somebody that would make life easier for an agent, that would give an agent an opportunity to really win at this industry like he's never won before. That was critical to me. And I expressed that in that post, is that, and I write a lot on LinkedIn and I have a lot of followers, and I'm thankful for all of them, but they all know that I'm very, very honest and transparent, and I'm okay with putting my faith and my heart on my sleeve. I believe in the Lord above, and I'm not here. I can't breathe. I can't live without him. So
which is the reason I was attracted to you, because my core beliefs and core values are radical honesty, radical transparency. We are who we are. Don't hide it. Let's not waste time. It's okay to be you. It's okay, no matter what in our organization. It's okay to be you. It's okay to fail. It's okay to mess up. Keep trying. Keep getting better. It's not okay to not keep getting better. It's not okay, but it's not okay to lie or to quit trying or quit getting better. But you can mess up all you want, or all that you do if you're trying. So that, but in organizations, so much everyone's putting on airs. You go into corporations, you go in their boardroom, everyone's got an angle, everyone's playing something, and then everyone's trying to obfuscate responsibility so they can slide through the cracks. But when you've been in the meetings, I want people finding the problems. I come to work to find a problem. What's the problem? What's wrong? How do we fix it? How can it be better? And how did you screw it up? Because if you can tell me exactly how you screwed it up, then we can figure out how to make it better, right? I'm not worried about you being in trouble. That's the way that about me, but the world doesn't.
Right.
But that radical transparency and wearing your heart on your sleeve, I think that's okay. And our culture, that's what we expect, actually.
Yeah, well, you've kind of engraved that with all the people and the team and whatnot. But for me, I'm at a stage in my career where, I've lived almost 11 years away from my wife and children. I've lived all across America. I've been in all types of environments. I tell people I've lived almost 11 years away, Brandon, from my wife and kids, and I'm not even including the fact that for most of my career, I was gone Sunday through Thursday, and I still lived at home. Right. And so if you add all that together, it might be considerably more. And so it's gone. I've sacrificed almost everything to this industry because I love it. I truly do. And I love the agents. I love most of the FMOs and IMOs that we talked about. Right. They're good friends. The carriers have been really wonderful to me, have hired me. I thank them for all the years of helping me. But, there came a time where, when we talked a little over a year ago, where I said, Brandon has actually done it. There's a lot of people that talk about doing it and they want to create change, but very few people have actually done it. And you actually changed the Medicare supplement industry as a whole in the United States. You truly did. Whether people don't know about it or have never heard about it, you were the entrepreneur that took a risk and said, I'm going to actually do something no one else has done. And you were wildly successful at it. Okay. But at the same time, you've always put the needs of your family and your team and your staff ahead of your own, which that selflessness was also something that attracted me. So when I said to you, I said, Brandon, I'll come in and I'll head up corporate projects and strategic initiatives for the company. All right. So as we're looking at places we want to invest, maybe there's projects that we want to do, maybe there's carriers that we really want a partnership with. Let me talk to them and let me find out, first of all, if they want to do that, but maybe more importantly, that we want to do that, that we want to do that with them. And I think over the last year or so, we've really found out those carriers, those partners, those friends that we really want to kind of change the industry together with. And I will tell you, I won't share our quote unquote secret, right? But I will share this. I have spoken to many, many carrier executives off the record. Okay. And they have told me privately that everything is pretty much par for the course. They just keep doing the same old, same old. I said, yes. What we are though right now, Steve, is we are rooting for you and Brandon. We want Insurasales to radically change our industry and really give it back to the agent and give it back to the companies that believe in and putting their needs first. So any way that we can help you and Brandon is what I hear almost on a daily basis, Brandon. So I know that the industry is ripe for change. Whereas we've seen aggregating of a distribution arm, while that's maybe a good business strategy for them, what we see is a strategy that will really kind of integrate carriers and agents in a way that, frankly, I don't think they've been this way for 30 or 40 years. And if we can do it like I think we can, I think we radically shift the industry back to the carrier and the agent, with maybe other people too supporting in that world, but in a way that I don't think anybody's seen. And so for that, I'm thankful you gave me the opportunity to partner with you. And I truly believe that we're going to do some big things together, and all agents and agencies and IMOs and FMOs. I think everybody will win in this new process.
So Steve Jobs saw this a couple years ago. It was fascinating. There's an old clip of Steve Jobs, and he was developing the iPhone, and he brought it to people, and they said, "Well, have we surveyed all of our customers to find out what they're looking for, what they want?" And he said, "How can people know what they want when they've never seen it before?" Steve Jobs was an innovator. He saw the matrix. He saw the future. He saw the new thing. And I'm no Steve Jobs, but that resonates with me because someone with my skill set and all that. What I always see is, and if you're an entrepreneur out there, is don't focus on market metrics or industry talk or what's the industry. That's just plugging into an old arcane system. Listen to your customers. Look at your customers. Look at what they want. Look at what fears they have, what frustrations they have, and create something and say, what world would I live in that these problems don't exist anymore? If you can do that, then you can create that new world and that new product that no one has created before. That's the creation process. So, I'll leave it there. But you can't know what you want if you've never seen it before. But what people do want is all their problems solved.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. And it has it. This is
and they want more money too. They also want more money.
Well, they want more money, but the one thing that
more money, really less problems. That's what everyone wants. So go find that, and you'll build a good product.
Well, in our business, though, that some things just never change, right? If you're going to be in 100% commission industry like we are, you have to sell in order to make a living, right? So you need to be with a company that makes it as easy as possible for you to do that. You need carriers that are going to support you in your career and care about you and your spouse or your loved ones, your family, like they would their own employees. Again, back to a true partnership. And at the end of the day, the client has to really still get a company, because we used to say a long time ago, Brandon, in this industry, really an insurance policy is nothing more than a piece of paper and a promise, really. And it comes down to all those years those clients are paying, whether it be monthly, quarterly, annually, for their insurance. And they want to know that company's going to be there. And they want to know that the agents that are representing those companies are going to be high class, wonderful people that also care about them more so than they do. I always say this, and people who've known me for years, who have watched me speak, or I've gone in front of a number of marketing groups over my career. And I've always said, look, you want to be the guy when your clients come into the grocery store, you see them at the front, you give them a great big hug, and you start walking with them over to the produce section. And then you say, hey, I'll give you a call on next week and I'll come by and see you or whatever. Right. You don't want to be the guy that says, oh crap, and hide behind the frozen food section. Right. Because, oh, there's my client. Right. So it really comes down to, if you truly love this business and love your client, you want to love this business. Well, you gotta, if you're in a paradigm or that hasn't changed, you're in a pyramid where you're somewhere down here, and you're kind of asking yourself, I don't know if I want to do all that kind of stuff. then you're wrong, probably at some point looking for change, and you need somebody to like light that fire and give you an opportunity. And frankly, Brandon, that's, you talk about those 9 hours that we spent talking together, but that was a time when the fuse was lit, I think, between you and I both. And I believe in you, and I believe in what you're about. And I know the people who have watched your career develop over the years believe in you too. And so, I'm proud and honored to help you build Insurasales. And I think that when the agents and all the other people around the United States, when they see it, they're going to say, okay, game on. And this could be a lot of fun.
We'll leave it there. Steve, is the best way to get in touch with you on LinkedIn?
Yeah, no, you could do it LinkedIn if you want. You guys are always there. Let me know what you think. But if you want to reach out to me direct, it's Steve Bontell, Bontell at Insurasales. That's INSURASALES.com. Or if you're just bored and you say, man, I want to talk to that cat, right? It's 423-742-0609. Again, 423-742-0609. And real quick, Brandon,
they're putting it on the bottom third. Let's see if he can get the number up there real quick.
Yeah. And real quick, the phone number, people go, are you nuts? Like, I was a chief marketing officer of companies that have hundreds of thousands of agents across the country, and they go, you nuts? You're putting it out there. I said, yeah, my wife learned a long time ago that I work 24/7, and I don't care if I'm in church or I'm at dinner. If an agent's calling, I'm taking the call, and I'm going to do whatever I can to help them. So that's an important piece of the pie. That's what we do here.
So many phone calls we just lost got eaten up. So you had a pause there for a second on my end. I don't know. But yeah, I've learned that people don't want to use their phone anymore. They may text you when they get that. It's less of a risk than it once was to put it out there publicly. But so there's Steve, man. Radical transparency. Here's my phone number. Here's my
happy to help.
Email address. Let's do business. If what we talk about resonates with you, our job is to help every single person in the world find a better opportunity, a better way of doing business. There's not a whole lot we're releasing yet on some of the things that are coming up, but follow us here. Wherever you're watching this, we're on every social media, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere, Facebook. Wherever you're watching this, make sure to like it, subscribe it, share it with your friends, help us get the word out. And any final words, Steve?
No, just be thankful every day we can breathe. Give God the glory, and you never know when today's your last day. Living in the final expense world for the last 22 years, I can tell you that. You never know when your last day on this earth is. So tell your loved ones you care about them, you love them, and live a life of distinction, and one that you can be proud of, and you can leave a legacy for your kids. Not necessarily about money, but that you are a wonderful person, a wonderful father, and a wonderful man or woman, because that's important. That's all, Brandon.
Your legacy is right now. Great talking to you, Steve.
Thanks.
Great.
Nice talking to you too, Brandon. Enjoy.
We'll be here Tuesday at 5:00 Eastern every week. Mark your calendars. And for now, God bless y'all, and happy selling.
Thanks. God bless. Thanks, Brandon.